Hello, Anne. Well, thank you for joining us today. And I know our other customers are going to find it really useful to hear about your project and your experience and your journey. So, can you cast your mind back to when the extension was a figment of your imagination and what you were trying to do?
Yes, hello. Hi, Steve. So I first moved into this 1920s bungalow in 2015, and immediately it became obvious that I would need to do an extension because it had a very small galley kitchen, a middle room, and both of those were very disconnected to the living space. So I opted to go for a full-length rear extension to incorporate an open plan kitchen, diner and lounge living space. So quite multifunctional area.
Oh, it's a big project to take
Mm,
on. Uh,
yes.
and so you incorporated two relatively large roof lanterns in the space.
Mhm.
So, for I presume for natural light. Were there any issues you were worried about?
Yes, after the installation and we started sort of living in here and getting used to it, come the summer, I'm sure a lot of people are finding when they plan roof lanterns, they don't really think about the heat coming through. Well, the heat generated became quite unbearable as it's south facing. So I really did get full sun most of the day on the very hot days. And it, to the extent it did make this living area quite uncomfortable to be in. Um, Despite the patio doors being thrown open, you still had quite a large, intense heat coming through. So the need for roof lanterns became obvious after a while.
Yeah, and what options did you look at? Did you look at more than one option?
Well, just browsing through, obviously just getting a feel for what was possible, whether or not blinds go on the actual lantern as opposed to across the base of the opening. Um, Loving the fact that there was remote or electric blind options as opposed to perhaps battery options. Um, and I was very drawn to electric roof blinds going across, which could give that the best solution, hopefully, and the different fabrics. So obviously there are a few companies to look at, but I was finding that I was happy reading about how strong and durable the whole frame of it would be with a company such as yourself, and just how sleek it could be rather than it being too bulky or maybe something that perhaps would give or warp in time. Obviously, concern about the actual piece itself and how durable it would be. Mm.
And of course, you met Chris, who's our electric roof lantern blind specialist. And what was that process like?
Oh, fantastic. Very speedy, prompt emails, and first of all, a telephone conversation, followed by a video, Zoom face-to-face chat. So you could really sort of ask questions and chat away, perhaps a bit better than you would on the phone, and see some visuals, of course, a presentation. So really very thorough and professional, and definitely lots of contact with email, sort of if there were any questions. For example, I when it came to choosing a fabric, when I was considering what to go with, I just asked for some samples and they turned up, which made it obviously a lot easier to check what I was going to go for. So yeah, very knowledgeable too.
And you went with the Hermes, or two sets of Hermes blinds, electric blinds,
Yeah.
with a metallized fabric to tackle sort of glare and heat control.
Yes, I did. Obviously, there were other options. I could have had the Athena or the Hermes, but I decided to go for the Hermes because it did have a little bit more tension uh, strength with it. So I just felt that durability would be sort of peace of mind to go for that, as I could manage to go for that size, given the size of the opening. But yeah, so I was thinking about what type of fabric, and I was trying to decide between blackout or one that would allow some light, because I wanted primarily to cut out the intense heat. So I immediately thought blackout's what I need to go for. But at the same time, I wanted to not make it too dark in here. And I do like the feel of being able to look through the roof lantern and see that space up there. So looking at the different options for the screen blinds, it helped with reducing the glare and the heat, but each material Chris was explaining had different properties to it. So you could really work out what it was that was more important and help you decide which fabric. So the one with the metallic backing was perfect for what I needed.
That's great. And of course, you had the installation with a team of
Yeah.
installers. How did that go?
Beautifully, very smoothly. First of all, had the measuring. Martin came round to do a measure up, chatted me through what the electrician would need to do, marked out where that the fuse would need to go, and also told me that if I had the electrician round and there's any questions, just to give him a call, which I did a couple of times, just to be sure that the electrician knew what he was expected to do to get this right. So very accessible. And then on the day of the installation, he came with his son Brian. And yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect. Would it be a whole day? Would there be a lot of mess? But actually, it was so smooth, so professional, very friendly. And he left with plenty of advice, and again, just reassurance that if I need to make any calls or there needs to be any tweaking while it settles, just to feel free to give him a call and he'll pop back. So yeah, very confident with it.
Well, lovely. And well,
Mm.
it's sort of middle of winter, at least it feels like it at the moment. So in terms of the summer solar heat gain, I guess it's probably premature to tell, but what have you felt so far? What's the difference you felt?
Yes, you're right. We haven't had the heat, so I'm looking forward to enjoying how that will benefit being able to close that heat off. But what I have found is that as I've closed it with the colder weather that we've had, it's actually made the whole open plan area, which is quite large, feel so much more cozy in the evenings, because there is a lot of glass everywhere and it can feel quite cold. Certainly with the cold weather, it's closed it in to make it feel cozy, but because I can still see through, it's still given that little bit of visibility out, so that you're not feeling completely blocked out. But yeah, it's no doubt with the metal backing, I'm looking to find, it's only been a few weeks, but I'm imagining it's also keeping the heat in, as well as in the summer it keeping it out for me. So I have a log fire. I haven't needed it actually recently, but yeah, it's a lovely cozy feeling when that's closed. And in the morning I come in and it does feel really lovely, where I can just press the open button and hey presto, we get such beautiful daylight come through. So the other thing I will say is that I work from home and these days, so I used to find a lot of glare on the laptop screen. So this is also something that I found definitely helps, so I can actually see the people that I'm talking to.
Mm. It's an interesting one, because you've gone for a pearl, and we'll see it in a moment, but a pearl color
Yeah,
underneath, which is quite a light color, and normally light colors create lots of glare, but not with this fabric.
no, no, yeah, the metal backing, obviously still cuts out a fair bit of light, but not all of it, and definitely improves with the glare. So in fact, having 2 roof lanterns and 2 screens, I've got one that is directly over the lounge area and one for the dining area. So should another member of the family want to watch the television in the afternoon, that one can be pulled, but this one can stay open if I'm working in the kitchen here. So that's useful. But also if I'm working on the table and doing my work, then I can close this as well, because the glare reduction is definitely improving by closing those.
I just have one more. I have 2 more questions, but the penultimate one is, would you recommend Window Treat to friends and family? It's the $64 million question.
Most definitely. Yeah, from start to finish, the information, the installation and the product. And I have every confidence if there's any queries later that, you know, you're there on the end of the phone. So I'm very pleased with it and with the results from having it in just these few short weeks. So I definitely would recommend it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's music to my ears. Can I be cheeky and just ask you to close the blind?
Yes,
And so
definitely.
let's other customers see what it's like.
Okay. Could have done both, but yeah, you'll see that bright light come out. So if I did want to put the television on down there, it's definitely going to have cut the glare onto the screen.
That's lovely. It looks great, Anne.
And also, both closing and especially opening again, it's actually a lot quieter than I expected it to be. So that's another bonus. You know, people have come round, I've had a couple of friends and family member come round, and they think it looks sleek, and yeah, they're very impressed with it. And it certainly made a comment with how quiet it is. And the controls are quite easy even for my 90-year-old mum to use. So she only has to press it, and it just works beautifully. Yeah.
Oh, thank you ever so much for sharing your experience.
Okay, you're very welcome.